In today's video, I'm going to be giving out the exact framework of how I objection handled my way into collecting millions of dollars for our online coaching company. Now, objection handling is the skill set of turning someone's no or maybe into a yes. I'll be showing you exactly how you can do the same. Now, really, why should you listen to me? Well, my name is Ahmed Mustafa, and I get it. I wouldn't trust some random curly hair guy, stranger online either. But in reality, I'm just going to log into my PayPal right now and just prove everything that I'm talking about. And so if you look on screen here, I can literally refresh everything. So last 30 days, we did 122,000 Canadian, which is give or take 90,000 USD. This year so far, $578,000, and last year we did $1.1 million. Now, this is all just from PayPal. This is not any of our other payment processors that we use or e-transfers or things on that nature. That's just going to take too much work, so I'll just show you this for now. So either way, I know a thing or two when it comes to objection handling. Now, even if you're not in sales, the framework I'll be showing you can be used in your day-to-day life. Whether you're having a conversation with a friend, with a coworker, with a partner, it's all an interaction, right? And so when you understand how to objection handle, again, you can turn someone's or no into a yes, into a fuck yes. And this is what I'll be showing in this hour-and-a-half long video. Because most people, honestly, they just don't have the attention span to spend the same amount of time they would have spent watching a movie and learning a new skill set that can literally change the entire course of their life. And so if that's you and you can't commit the same amount of time you would have just spent watching Instagram Reels today for your personal development, then just please click off. This is not the video for you. Now, if you are committed to your growth and you watch until the end of this video, then you'll actually see a live call breakdown of one of my sales calls for one of our programs I did with someone I had previously gotten a call with who decided, you know what, he wasn't going to buy. At least he said so. I'll be showing everything that he said in terms of text, what I said back to him to making sure that he gets on a call with us instead of just ghosting us. And then from there, I'll actually play the entire call recording, pausing in the middle and explaining the rationality behind what I was saying, why I was saying it, what eventually got him to buy. Okay, so we're going to get straight into it here. Basically, just give you a little backstory on this call here. It's a follow-up call to a previous call that I did with this guy. Went through the entire call. He is good to go. Yeah, I just need to read the agreement. Goes through, reads the agreement, sends me these texts. So this specific video, I'm going to be showing you guys exactly how to A, get people back onto a call, and then B, how to actually fucking close them when they get back on the call. Okay, so back to our follow-up call. First call, he was supposed to close. We agreed on $8,000 as the price point. He was going to pay $5,000 up front, and then the rest would come from the earnings of the channel. Just so you guys understand as well, we have a YouTube automation offer, and so we teach people how to do YouTube automation. They're basically faceless channels where people don't show their face. They're able to make an income doing YouTube by hiring freelancers who create the content for them, right? And so we basically agreed, okay, it's $8,000 for the whole thing. We're going to do 5K for him up front, and then the remaining 3K is going to come from the earnings of the channel, right? So he agreed, and he was supposed to transfer the funds, but he ends up texting me this, which basically said he does not want to move forward anymore, right? So, hey, Adam. I go by Adam sometimes on sales calls, just less sales resistance. A lot of times people can't pronounce Ahmed, and it's actually something I got from Jordan Belford, which is just don't create unnecessary resistance. So if you can have it where people can pronounce your name a little bit easier, then just do that. And so I sometimes go by Adam. And so, hi, Adam. I regret to inform you that I would have to cancel tomorrow's meeting. No worries. What time works better, right? So I want you guys to realize all the things I'm telling him here because it's done very intentionally, okay? So he said, I regret to inform you that I would have to cancel tomorrow's meeting. So that was the follow-up to collect the cash. I didn't say, oh, why don't you want to go forward? I'm still assuming the deal, right? I'm still assuming that he wants to move forward, that he wants to buy the program. So I'm like, no worries. What time works better, right? Even though I know for a fact, like, that's what he means. But I'm just going to make that assumption, right? Because I want him to feel like, well, why wouldn't he move forward, right? So unfortunately, I'm going to back out from this deal. You did great, so it's nothing to do with you. It's just too expensive for me to go with this. I'm sorry. It's not you, it's me, baby girl, okay? I'm like, all right, no need to apologize, Indra, right? I want to bring down any sort of resistance that he could feel so I can actually get him back onto a call, right? No need to apologize, Indra. Curious, what's your plan now to get your income up to $15,000 a month? Make sure you won't need to go back to corporate world once you're done your MBA, right? Because that was his goal. So what I'm doing here is reminding him of his goal that he mentioned to me on the call was so important for him and asking him, cool, if not with us, not an issue,
how are you planning on actually achieving that goal, right? Because I want him to always remember what we talked about, why he wanted to join to begin with, and making sure that he's still in that mentality, right? I still want to create that pain of not buying, right? So it's like, cool, you're not going to buy with us, but how are you going to get to that goal, right? And so he tells me, I'm going to go ahead and work on my YouTube channel, passion project of mine, then additional channel based on automation, planning to learn all the skills myself with outsourcing, etc., and the e-commerce business with a couple business partners or a couple partners. Our conversation definitely sparked my interest in learning more about YouTube automation, so I'm going to do a deep research on it and brainstorm niche topics that I have strong passions and knowledge in. And then I tell him, no worries at all, man. Glad you got a game plan. I don't mind still having our call so I can at least set you on your way with some pointers and save you a lot of hurdles you'll face with the channel or something along those lines, right? Basically, what I'm doing here is, again, making sure that I'm decreasing any sort of resistance so he can get back onto the call so I can sell him on the call. If I try to objection handle during text, good fucking luck. They're just not going to buy. You have no leverage. You have no ability to objection handle. You have no ability to control the dynamic of the conversation. You need to get them back onto a call. He's telling me, yeah, like I might want to do this on my own. You know, I got this other project with a couple business partners. I could do some e-commerce. He's telling me too many things. In reality, I know most likely our option is the best option, right? Or at least I want to find out if it is, right? And so let's get him back onto a call, right? And so I told him, okay, cool, you're planning on doing this on your own? Well, let me just give you some free pointers, right? And I would, by the way, like I gave him a bunch of free pointers on the first call. I would have done it on the second call, and I did do it on the second call. If you didn't want to buy it, is what it is, but I knew he was going to buy, right? Because I fucking sell. That's what I do, right? And so I would like that. You and Victor would be great to keep in my network. I'm happy to keep the meeting if you are aware that I'm backing out of the deal. Just cost reasoning. Not an issue. Doing my own research, etc. will take some time, but it's something I'm good at. Haha. Talk tomorrow, brother. See you in 30 minutes. And then he obviously got on the call. So just so you guys understand, Victor's my business partner. He is the face of the company, right? He's the influencer. I run all the back end sales, things on that nature, right? And so in reality, yeah, like he's saying, oh, like, just so you know, I'm not buying, right? I'm backing out of the deal. It's funny because I remember when I used to sell HVAC, you know, if someone had a no soliciting sign on their door, that was the best thing in the world. I remember like newbies would come out and knock with me, and they'd be like, oh my God, no soliciting. Like we shouldn't knock. We shouldn't go in. I'm like, these guys are the biggest deals. They're the biggest deals. When someone tells me I'm not going to buy, I know they're going to buy. The reason they're saying that is because they don't trust themselves not to buy. So they're trying to tell you to cause you to feel like they're not going to buy. So there's less pressure on them to actually buy. In reality, this guy was a G. I really like this guy. I really like this conversation. I want you guys to like understand the framework behind getting people onto follow-up call, right? The ones that are trying to cancel, right? So follow the sequence if someone tries to back out on you after their sales call, right? Which is they say, hey, thanks for our call, but I decided not to move forward, right? Which is what happened here. You say, hey, no worries at all, name. How are you planning on solving X problem, right? The main problem that you would have gotten from the probing from the first call that you did with them, right? You want to diffuse the situation, create the most calm environment where they don't feel pressured into anything, right? If they feel any sort of pressure, if they feel like you're just trying to get them on the call to sell, guess what? They're not going to get on the call, right? They already told you they don't want to buy. Why would they get on a call just to try to be sold again? You have to just get them back onto a call by offering no pressure consultation, support, sending them in the right direction, connecting them with someone, whatever it may be, right? Remind them of the goal that you should have spent a bunch of time pulling out of them on the previous call, right? There should have been a lot of pain for not actually hitting this goal. So you want to remind them, hey, like, how are you planning on achieving this goal, right? And ask them basically that, right? What is the solution if it's not your solution, if it's not your product, if it's not your service, right? Whatever their response is, you want to give them a reason to hop back on a call with you. Never, ever try to objection handle via text, right? You have no control over the environment. They will just ghost you, right? Or they'll tell you they'll come back when it's convenient for them. So you never want to just do the objection handling there. You have no leverage. Get them back onto a call by providing something that they want, right? What if what you want to do here is give them a reason to hop back on the call while having them feel zero pressure to buying at all? In this case, he mentioned that he felt like the program was out of his budget. He wants to try YouTube on his own, but he also said that he's looking at other projects which could potentially help his goal, right? If it was just a money objection, I could have offered other payment plans. So sometimes I'll be like, okay, cool. Like, is it just a money thing? They're like, yeah, I'm like, cool, there might be a way for us to be able to help you to join in at a lower cost, or not a lower cost, like basically being able to help you come in within your budget, something along those lines. Now, I wouldn't offer payment plans on the spot on text. I would get him back into a call to figure that out. But because he gave me other reasons, which is like, okay, it's cost, but also I feel like I can do this on my own. But I also have some other e-commerce projects. There's too many things there. I couldn't like give him a specific, oh, well, let me deal with the money objection. It's like, I can't do that because there's other objections. So let me just get him back onto a call, right? Payment plans, but because there was other opportunities he was weighing out, I didn't want to risk offering payment plans as a reason to get him back onto the call. So I told him if he were to hop back on a call, that I would give him some pointers to make his journey doing YouTube automation on his own easier, which is what he wants, right? I put what he wanted and what I have in between, right? Like for him to get what he wants, which is information on doing YouTube automation on his own, he had to get onto a call with me. If he gets on a call with me, I close because that's what I do, right? And so it's funny because I knew for a fact I was going to sell him, right? I wouldn't let this deal slide. He needed our project, and it was my duty to sell him, right? Now, the reason I want the sale even more is because he felt like a trophy. This guy was super intelligent, master's degree. I mean, he was doing his master's at the time, engineer, like came from the mud, made it out, like super wise with his money. He's an influencer, like just great guy all around, right? So he's a confident person. So using little emotional tricks wasn't going to work. In sales, you have to love the kill. It's almost like a sport. Bottom line, really, I just wanted to flex my muscles, right? And this is the biggest thing that you'll see with great sales reps. So whether you are a sales rep or you are hiring sales reps or you're training them or whatever it is, one of the key things to look for is that the person wants the kill. It's not just about the money. Like, it's funny. I remember in HVAC, like there'd be times where I would sell a deal or had reps that sell a deal basically at a loss, or just like where they make no money at all because it was just covering the expenses of getting the unit installed, just because there was another company trying to sell to that person and they're like not willing to lose the deal, right? It's just for the kill, just for the sport. They didn't even make any money, but they're like, fuck it, like we get the deal, our company gets the deal, right? And that's really like, I don't think people should be sales sluts. That's not the point, right? I don't think you should just sell to anyone and everyone. But if your product will provide a net positive to that person's life, fuck yeah, kill. Like, go for the kill. Like, get that fucking sale, right? And so, as we go along, I can't emphasize this point enough, but you need to be able to find value. They need to be able to find value in the product, or you're a piece of shit, you know what I mean? Like, you're a piece of shit, and it'll come to bite you back in the ass later on, right? If you're selling people that shouldn't be sold to, you're going to get shitty reviews, you're going to have a poor reputation, you're not going to get word of mouth referrals. Like, it's going to come back and haunt you, right? Like, whether or not you care, it will fuck you in the long term. So just don't do that, right? But if it does provide value for that person, yeah, do everything you can, get them back on a call and sell, right? In the case that they do qualify for your offer and it's a net positive impact, basically, then use the tactics I show in this call to get them to buy by doing the following, right? Diffuse the situation or remove any sort of sales resistance, right? Get them to feel like you are genuinely trying to help by uncovering their main concerns, right? And then lead them to the point of the kill where they also see that your offer is the best possible way for them to get to their desired outcome. They need to feel like it's their decision. You're not fighting them or bullying them into making that decision, okay? And so really, I'm about to start playing the actual call itself, but I had so much trust in myself that he would buy. I brought on my business partner, the face of the company, on the call just so he could watch it live. Because I showed him the text. I'm like, dude, I'm gonna get this kill. Like, I'm gonna get the sale. He's like, yeah. I'm like, dude, watch. Come on the call. So he came on the call, said 3 words the entire call, just to see it live, right? And a couple of things to keep in mind for this call here. You'll notice that at no point in time I'm fighting him. We're always on the same side, right? We always want the same thing, right? Verbally, you can do that by saying completely get it on the same page. So just so I understand, this is the goal, correct? Right? This is what we're trying to achieve. We are trying to achieve, right? This is what we need to do. Right? It's not, this is what you're going to do. This is what you should be doing. It's always, what should we do to help us get to our goal, which is basically their goal, right? But they need to feel like your goal and their goal is the same goal. So you're working towards the common thing, right? For example, in HVAC, when we were selling, instead of like sitting at a dinner table and facing the person and be like, okay, we're going to get you this and this and this, and it's going to cost this amount, it's going to save you this amount on utility bills or whatever it is, I would go and I would sit beside them, right? Something I learned from my last sales manager is to sit beside them. You're on the same page. So when you're showing them the paper, you're both side by side. You're on the same side of the table, literally physically. Now on sales calls, if we're doing it on Zoom, we have to do that verbally, right? And so continuously looping. Looping is basically just the act of figuring out the true main objection that someone has, solving it with the prospect, and continuing to do so until there's no more objections and they have no option to buy, right? Or option but to buy, right? It's very simple. So I also kept in mind that he deems himself as a smart and capable and efficient person. These are labels that he has for himself. You'll notice that throughout the call here. So whenever I did my objection handles, I did it making sure that the frame of the handle, the frame of why he should buy or why he should commit to a certain action is based on, again, the identity that he has of himself. Right. So I'm always connecting his self-identity with the actions that would lead him to actually buying, but it's in connection with his self-identity. Right. So if he's a smart, capable, and efficient person, then he should take smart, efficient, capable actions. Now, if I'm able to show that smart, capable, and efficient actions lead him to the point of buying our product, guess what? He'll buy it. And that's exactly what happened on this call. Right. So he prioritizes time. He wants to improve his entrepreneurial skills, believes in self-development. Again, you'll see all of this on the call here. Okay, so this is super simple. I'm just going to be showing the call. And then as I go through the call, I'm going to pause and explain why I was saying certain things and techniques I was using and really what I was trying to get out of the prospect here to get him to eventually close. And so, we'll just go one by one here.
Good afternoon, everybody.
Hello, hello.
Hello.
How are you guys doing today?
Good. And yourself?
Good, man. Good to see you. Good to meet you, Victor.
Likewise, man. Likewise. Always nice to meet a local.
The local, yeah. You guys are no local no more.
Not anymore, I guess. No. Decided to abandon ship.
Yeah.
How's
South Africa?
Calgary looks good, man.
Yeah.
Behind you looks great.
Yeah, it's I don't know if you know, but we got the beach now in palm trees.
Okay, the sports lawn there, right? Looks pretty familiar.
Definitely. Near one of them all, for sure.
Is that right?
So really all I'm doing here is just building a bit of rapport, right? We're reestablishing rapport, a couple of jokes, reminding him we're from the same city. And really this can be done in any way, right? Let's say you like the same sports team. Great. You can talk about that. You want to go and visit the same country. Awesome. Both of you want to go to Italy. Great. Where do you want to go in Italy? You just like certain political standpoints. Potentially you can do that as well. Politics is a little iffy, but in reality, if you can find something that can reestablish rapport on that second call or just in general establishing rapport, it's great. Don't overdo it. I think a lot of people overdo and overthink about, I have to be best friends with the prospect. In reality, the main thing is that they have trust for you and they respect you, right? They respect your ability to be able to get the job done and they trust the fact that you're actually going to do it, right? In the same way that if you go to your doctor, if your doctor knows what they're talking about, do you really care if you like them or not? Not really. Does it help? Yeah. So really what we're doing here, just reestablishing rapport very quickly here, 2 minutes at the most, and then getting right back into it.
All right.
Awesome. You know, crazy? This isn't even actually Victor. This is an AI that we made. I'm kidding. Imagine.
I knew it. I knew this is all a robot.
Yeah.
It's like deep fake.
Deep fake, right?
It's like a Black Mirror episode. I don't know if you've ever watched Black Mirror, but
dude, big fan of Black Mirror. I haven't seen them all, but a couple of them that makes you like, oh man, it never leaves your mind. Like, holy fuck, that's so messed up,
They're so good, yeah.
They're so good. They're so messed up.
So messed up. Always around the corner.
Goes back to like the regular day after watching it. Awesome. Man, Jordan just kind of filled me in. Not an issue at all for us in terms of after our conversation and where you decided to go off. But you kind of fill me in if I understand anything that I would have missed on our last call or just like the way that you want to take this. And I can kind of help you in that way as well.
So what I'm doing here is I'm getting him to explain to me why he has shifted his idea on what he wants to do, right? Because on the last call, we got on the call, we talked about YouTube automation, we talked about our coaching offer. He was super down. He's like, send the contract. I'm down to go. Let me just read it. And then he sends me those texts I just showed. And so really what I want him to do is walk me through his thought process of what shifted, right? Because I want to see why he went from wanting to buy to no longer wanting to buy, because that means I can bring him back into that realm. I can bring him back into that mentality if I understand what the shift is. So I want him to explain it. Now remember, at this point in time, he doesn't think I'm going to sell him, right? He came on the call. He said, look, I'm not going to buy. I hope you know that. I'm like, cool. We're just going to give you some free pointers. And I will, and I do. But in reality, I want to diffuse the situation. So I'm always going to do it in the most calm tone. Just let me know, it's not an issue at all for us. It's not an issue. It's no worries. I completely get it. Just kind of explain to me just so I understand, what shifted, right? And let's see what he says.
So you want me to recap?
Yeah, I guess like we had that conversation, we were kind of on the same page.
5K for the actual program itself, and then the rest paid out from the earnings. And then you kind of ran through the numbers and kind of just noticed that you want to go down a different route. Can you kind of just give me a recap just so we're on the same page, and then that way I can kind of help you in whatever way that we need to take this?
For sure. So Adam or Ahmed, I don't know who you want to go by these days, but ran through really awesome. Like he explained through all the pillars, through what's he offering, and very new to this automation world. And he ran through all the good stuff. I know you guys have got community, mastermind, all these great things that you guys are able to provide. And of course, where we kind of what I was challenged was the cost, right? And we chat about options, alternative, and what value will I be willing to, and we landed on a value, and that's what the contract was. And I think just my analytical mindset did get the best of me as usual. I'm an overthinker a lot of times. I definitely looked more into it, and I thought, oh man, okay, this is definitely a lot of a big lump sum for me to give in right away, especially when, as Adam already know my situation, I'm currently a full-time student. I also have a brother that I'm funding who's a full-time international student. So this big lump sum of money is a big deal. It's hard for me to okay, while I do have it now, it's gonna burn quickly right throughout the year because I'm planning to be a student for at least a year. So really, the more I think about it, it's okay, fuck, it's I know Adam has been gracious to meet where I wanted to meet initially, but then the analytical side of me think, okay, this is a lot of money to give right now when a lot of things are still sort of in that transition phase. So I'm more of a my risk management side is always okay, sure you have it now, but you have others to take care of. What I need that rainy day fund. What if something happened? You have it now, but then once they're gone, they're kind of oh, they're so out of reach. So and then I took it on my own to okay, what exactly is the whole deal of this automation? And then I know myself. I have a obsessive researching and educating myself personality, so I know I will go into the rabbit hole of Reddit and YouTube and all this stuff to find out the information I like. Sure, it won't be as wise as you guys because you guys have been through all this, full time. You guys have definitely breadth of knowledge and library and experiences that will definitely prevail that finding my own. But I think at this stage, I'm definitely okay, cost opportunity wise, weighing the return on investment and stuff like that. I'm definitely okay, maybe I'll just learn it from the scratch myself and see where that takes me. And so it's just mostly just a big dollar investment for me right now. That's why that's the hiccup.
So you said a whole lot of stuff, right? Now, this is one key point. You need to do this is you need to be taking down notes, right? Throughout the entire call, it's so important to be taking down notes of everything that they're talking about and then making indentations in terms of the depth of the questions that you're asking, right? So it's I feel stressed. Okay, why do you feel stressed? Oh, because of a lack of money. Well, how's a lack of money cause stress? Well, I don't feel like I can provide for my family. It's well, it might sound dumb, but it's okay, what do you mean by that? Well, it's there's times where I don't feel like a man because I'm not able to provide for my family in the way that I would like to be doing because of my lack of income. So basically take that I'm stressed and then take down notes and continue to go deeper and deeper and deeper until I get the actual thing, which is he feels less of a man by not being able to provide. Right, that's what's causing stress, and it's coming due to the finances, right? And so the same thing here. Here he just gave me a whole bunch of different objections, and really what I want to start doing is writing down notes on each one and dissecting each point to making sure if it's a smoke screen that we're clearing up the smoke screen, and if it's a real objection, figuring out what the solution to that objection is. And a lot of times it's just having that conversation with them, right? A lot of people have these preset understandings of how they should operate or the things that make the most amount of sense for them, but in reality, they haven't given it enough thought. It's our duty, it's our job as the salesperson to walk them through each of those points and make them see that actually, based on their goals, based on their values, they should be actually doing certain actions that they're not committing to right now. And so realistically, he talks about a couple labels, right? He's an analytical thinker, right? He has this risk management side of him. And so he's thinking, okay, well, I only have so much money in my pocket right now. I'm not making any more income. So maybe it just makes more sense for me to try this out on my own. Now, really, this is where we deal with two sides of the scale. So whenever you're selling BizOp or just in general, a lot of different things. I mean, in reality, if you're doing anything in life, there's going to be people on both sides of the scale, which is either I think that no matter how much support I get, I'm never going to be able to get these types of results, which is one extreme of the scale. Then there's the other side, which is actually, I don't need any help. I'm pretty sure I can figure it out on my own. I mean, maybe you'll make my life a little bit easier, but in reality, I can figure it out, right? And so there are always going to be people on both sides of the scale. Sometimes it's more extreme than the other. And really what we're trying to do is just equalize it, right? I'm just trying to always equalize it. So for example, if a 60-year-old
the grandma who's never done anything online comes in, she might be worried that no matter how much help we provide her, it's going to be really difficult for her because she's never done anything online. She barely uses her computer. It's just for email. And so I need to make sure that she understands, hey, it's actually super easy if you have our support, right? It's super, super easy, super, super simple, right? So I'm trying to bring down the difficulty in her mind, the perceived difficulty of the thing that we're doing. So she's more likely to think, okay, cool, with your guys' support, I think I can figure it out. Now, the opposite is true for people like him. People like him are ones who have done stuff in the past. Maybe they've built a personal brand. Maybe, they've worked out and got the dream physique, whatever it is. They have a lot of self-confidence that they can figure something out, right? Now, what I want to do is the opposite, which is, look, dude, I'm not trying to disregard their intelligence or, your ability to get things done. But in reality, this is way more difficult than you could ever imagine doing it on your own. And I have to give them logical reasons onto why. And so really what I'm trying to do is equalize it to remind them that, hey, this is not a 10% difference of the result, whether you get our support or not. Like if you get our support, you get to 10 grand a month. If you do it on your own, maybe you get to 5. Or 9 grand or whatever it is. It's like, no, like you do this on your own, you're not going to make any money. You're going to waste all your time. You're not going to be efficient at all. And based on what you told me, you want to be efficient, right? Based on what you told me, you want to have the ability to get things done and your time is very important. So that's not really alignment. And that's what you'll see how I start to describe this to him and actually handling each of the objections that he has.
Got you. So just so we're on the same page, kind of the numbers situation, figure it out. Okay, you have only a certain amount of runway because there's no income coming in right now, at least not the amount that's coming in from the full-time job. And so you're taking care of yourself, you got your partner, you got your brother, there are all these expenses coming in. And so right now, we're just kind of weighing out what actually makes the most amount of sense to make sure that you're not putting yourself in the hole, but at the same time working towards those goals that we kind of already mentioned, which is developing that income stream. So come a year from now, you're at 20K a month, 15K a month. For this gets closer to that 20K, and that you wouldn't have to need to go back to work if you decide to branch off into your own business. All right.
So what I'm doing here, right? I've repeated back what he just told me were the main objections, but I added in the goals that he said were still super important for him, right? Because right now he's not thinking about the future in terms of how he would feel if he got the desired outcome. He's in risk management, right? There is more pain in me giving you $5,000 right now than there is the pain of me not giving you the $5,000 and potentially not reaching the goal that I'm looking for. And so again, I'm trying to equalize it, right? I'm trying to decrease the amount of pain of buying and increase the amount of pain of not buying. So I'm reminding him, okay, I'm making sure, hey, did I get all this right? You mentioned this, and this is important for you, right? These are the main concerns that you have, but is it also fair to say that this is still the goal? So I want him and me to be on the same baseline. Like, yes, this is still the goal, but these are the concerns. That way, if I fix those concerns, guess what? I'm decreasing the pain of buying, and then I'm able to reassure him in terms of the possibility and the ability for him to actually hit the goals that he's looking for, and then increasing the pain of not buying, right? This is what I have to do throughout the entire call. That's what objection handling is. You're taking a negative and you're turning it into a positive. And if you turn enough negatives into positives, then you win the sale. That's how it works.
Yeah, we didn't go too deep in that. Sorry, I didn't go too deep in that, but that is the goal. I definitely want to be there. That would be great to have that option later on. Hey, do you want to go back to the corporate world or not? There's only a couple of jobs out in the corporate that I'm like, okay, I'll be willing to go back, even if I have not worried about money, because this, it's still a passion of mine, engineering and energy in general. But yeah, that's definitely the goal. Thank you for going into details on that, Adam. But yeah, it's just weighing that pros and cons. And I'm also thinking, well, maybe I'll learn on this myself, see what I could do on my own, and see if I'm starting to make some income. And even if it's like, oh, maybe I'm stagnant somewhere, then maybe I could loop in with you guys. Hey guys, I'm at this point now, and then boom, where can I do that? So maybe, I'm thinking maybe that's the better time for me to come in. Whereas right now I'm starting from zero, right? So that's why I'm like, okay, maybe by then, once I'm starting to earn a little bit, maybe I want to take the next level. Then I'd be like, hey guys, I'm ready to take this on. I have this money coming in now. Whereas before, I'm overprotective of my nest egg because of the situation I'm in, and my family relies on me, that type of deal. So That's what I'm thinking. That's why, okay, maybe it's a good time for me now to just don't spend the money now. Just focus on learning, absorbing, find out what's out there, and then maybe a better time to come in will be later.
Got you. Just so we're on the same page, it's still the schedule that you kind of mentioned, which majority, let's say 80 to 90% of your time is split right now between studying and working towards your MBA, and also obviously still taking care of your health and all the other routines that you have in place, right? So majority of the time is still out.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, the non-negotiator is the health and fitness stuff, because there's no point being rich but with a wheelchair and cane and potato minded, right?
Amen.
So my goal is to be 100 years old, still climbing mountains and be happy. I think that's important. So that's never a negotiator, right? And then the other things are phase-based. Right now, I want to increase my business acumen. My master's degree and MBA is something I want to focus on, because that brings me to, if I ever want to go back to the corporate world, elevate me. But even if I don't want to go back to the corporate world, entrepreneurialism it's always great to have business acumen, right?
Actually, no, that's
So again,
saying things I need to pay attention to, right? And watch what I'm saying. Like all of what I'm saying is completely handpicked to be able to get me the result I'm looking for, right? So I'm like, hey, is it fair to say that it's still the same schedule, right? Where you still only really have enough time to study for your master's, and then obviously for your health, because he's a super active guy. He likes hikes, he likes things of that nature. He's always working out. Great. The reason I'm doing that is because I want to label him as someone who cares about his time. That way, later on, I can show him that, hey, if you're someone that actually cares about your time, if that's something that's important for you, don't you want to have the result that you're looking for with the least amount of time invested? Well, would it be easier in your mind to be able to do that with the support of people who have done this hundreds of times, or you doing it on your own the first time? Right? Again, I'm planting these seeds that are going to grow, and I'm able to eat that fucking fruit that I just planted the seed for earlier on the call. And you're going to see this on this call here.
That's a really good point that you bring up there, man. Can I just be very frank with you when it comes to the YouTube side of things? And maybe Victor can attest to this as well, because we went through this process together. But YouTube, figuring it out on your own, I'm telling you right now, you can't. Like, for sure, you can't. Like, if you spent the amount of time and money and effort that we did, you would figure it out as well, because you have that mentality. The thing that would put on the flip side is Victor and I had 16 hours a day to burn for years, and being okay with doing so and spending tens of thousands of dollars on our YouTube journey to like get to the point that we did. And so I'm just telling you, based on what we've seen, it's a very difficult skill to learn if you don't have a lot of time to put into it, or if you don't have a guy to come and tell you what to do with it. Because you have to think about it. YouTube is by far the biggest cash cow in terms of social media. Like, not even close. Both of the hard, by far, not even close, right? Because it's very different to make a little Instagram post compared to an 8-minute long video that captures people's attention, that's in the niche that it needs to be in, that understands the psychology of the viewer, that understands how to keep them watching, how to engage with the content. That's very different compared to a quick picture or a quick reel or whatever it may be, right? And so the reason I say that is that, dude, we're more than willing to give you like a lot of information for free just to get you going in that sense. I'm just telling you right now, like, if you don't have a crazy amount of time, it might be better to put that time elsewhere, just because it doesn't make sense. You're probably just going to burn through a bunch of time and not actually get any of the results that you're looking for. This is just me being like very transparent, because I don't want you to like put in a bunch of time towards something that you probably are not going to see the result that you're looking for, just based on how limited your time is right now. Because the other two things, like you mentioned, the MBA as well as the like your health and making sure that you're still going out and continuing to be active, that's obviously the priority, right? So that is the only difference. Aptitude wise, you would crush it. I'm just saying in terms of time, it might not make the most amount of sense. Does that make sense?
So again, that's what I'm doing. I'm creating, like, I'm trying to equalize that scale from before, right? Because he was like, well, maybe I do this on my own. It's, I'll make a bit of money here, and then once I make the money, then I can come to you. Then I can scale, right? Once I have money coming in. I'm like, dude, you might as well not even try to do this. But you see my tonality? It's very like friendly. It's like I'm looking out for him. It's like, man, I don't think that the best thing that you could do right now is to try YouTube automation if you have the amount of time that you have right now and you're going to try to do it on your own. And it's not because you're dumb, because you're actually very smart. I kept telling him that. I kept reassuring the label that he has of himself, right? The frame of mind that he has of himself. I'm a smart, capable person. I'm like, dude, you're incredibly smart. That's not the issue. It's just this sort of skill set. You might think it takes 1 to 2 hours to learn on your own. In reality, it takes 20 hours a day. You know what I mean? Because it's me and Victor doing this for 10 hours a day for us to figure this out. And also tens of thousands of dollars being able to be spent on the YouTube channels for us to grow. And so in reality, you might be the smartest person in the world, but this just requires a different amount of input to be able to get the output that you're looking for. Unless you had the support of the people who already did the inputs. So you see, I'm starting to equalize, right, in his brain, how much work actually goes into it. Therefore, if he wants to still get the result that he's looking for, guess what? He has to go through us, right? And then after, is that fair, right? So I take the objection. I'm like, is this the objection? Yes? Cool. I handle the objection, and I hit him back with, is that fair? Does that make sense, right? Are we on the same page, right? This type of language will get us to, cross that off the list, cross that off the list, cross that off the list. And as we start to cross them, he's more and more and more in the buying phase, and we're able to go for the kill and close and collect.
Oh, 100%. Yeah, no, I appreciate where you're coming in from this. Yeah, I do agree. And time is money, right? I know you guys accumulated those wealth of both time and money on this, so you are a specialist in this topic. I'm aware of that.
Can I flip on to another thing that you kind of mentioned as well? You mentioned just being very analytical, because I'm the exact same way as you probably could tell on our last call. Numbers, data, everything, that is exactly how I'm wired, and that's maybe for better or for worse why Victor loves me and hates me, because we're so different, but at the same time work so well together. But really, when it comes to this, I think a lot of times we can look at the data and misconstrue how we're looking at it based on other factors. So what I mean by that is, you mentioned that there's obviously a certain runway that you already have in place, and I'm sure that you've already ran through the expenses that you could expect that are coming in on a monthly basis. Obviously, yeah, there's going to be certain things that we can't expect that might come up, and you want to have that safety net. But for the most part, it's fair to say you don't know how much runway you have right now. Is that like a fair assumption?
Absolutely, yeah. The rainy day metaphor, same idea. It's like, of course, this is right now, our relationship right now is like, yeah, you guys are selling a service, a product, a community, and I'm a buyer. And, there's a lot in my mind. I'm like, okay, yeah, if everything's the trajectory is like perfect world, I'll achieve all that you mentioned and get to that 20K a month. But, real life, as you know, things happen along the way. Things that work out according to plan, things, or I don't know, maybe there's a blind spot that I'm not aware of right now. And I'm like, oh shit, okay, I did not anticipate this, right? So that 5K is sort of like, okay, once it's gone, it's gone. And now I'm left with trying to deal with the catastrophe, whatever it is. I'm not saying there is. I'm just saying, the analytical side is kind of like, I want to add.
So here's more of a trust thing, right? He's like, I trust you guys to an extent, right? And so he's saying, okay, like what happens if, you say all of these things are going to happen, but then it doesn't, right? What happens there? So now it's more of a trust issue. It's not even about finances because he has the money. That means if he genuinely 110% believed that he was going to get the results that he's looking for, he would go through with it, right? And so right now, I need to overcome the trust part of it. So I need to understand why there's a lack of trust and then be able to break that down with him and then be able to actually go through and get him to start to trust us a little bit more and be able to buy.
Add factors of safety to the actions that I'm taking.
100%, which makes full sense. There's obviously certain things that we can't plan for because they kind of just come up, and that's in general, right? Whether it's business, relationships, health, politics, whatever you can think of, there's always going to be a level of unknown, right?
So see what I'm doing, right? He's like, okay, I'm trying to be risk averse, right? Right now everything sounds great, but it might not always be like that. Maybe something else comes up. Maybe it doesn't work out in the way that you guys explained. I'm like, dude, fully get you on the same page. In reality, that's with every single thing that you look at, right? When you get in a relationship, you don't know how it's going to play out, right? Politics, you have no idea what happens when a new governor, a new president, whatever it is, comes into play, right? We have no idea what happens with health, right? We could take our measurements and be healthy as much as possible, but you could get hit with cancer, you can get hit by a car. Like, we don't know what's going to happen. So you can't always adjust for literally every single thing. So you definitely want to make sure that you're taking the best action that you can take, but you can't always know that it's going to be the best action until looking back in hindsight. And so I want to remind him, like, hey, you can do your best to plan out accordingly, but a lot of times you can't plan out everything, right? And the same way that he wants to be an entrepreneur, right? He wants to grow that skill set. Guess what? This is how you start to grow that muscle. So I'm kind of reminding him of all those things, right? So I agree, but then I add a bit of context that makes him see it in a different light. And then that gets him closer and closer and closer to seeing it in the way that I want him to see it. And then he ends up buying.
And so we have to have some sort of buffer zone for that. It's about just making sure that the buffer isn't so big that it's causing us a limitation in our ability to grow. What I mean by that is, realistically, what do you think is the absolute worst possible case scenario if you were to move forward with the program with the 5K and obviously having the...
This is one of the best frames that you could have on a sales call and a conversation with someone, whatever it may be, right? Whenever someone is worried about taking action on something that they should be taking action on, get them to play out best case and worst case scenario. I know this sounds super simple, right? But most people don't even want to think about what the worst case scenario could even look like. They don't even want to look at it. They don't want to even think about it. It's the same reason that people go to a bar, right? Let's say last night, they got wasted, they went out, they bought a bunch of girls drinks, whatever it is. They had a good time. They popped some bottles. Cool. The next morning, they don't even want to look at their bank account. They want to even know how bad the damage was. It's like, the damage is there. Right? Like, the damage is already done. People don't even want to look at that. And so because why? People are avoiding pain, right? It's the same thing as I mentioned on the first podcast episode. It's the same thing that I'm mentioning here. People want to avoid pain. And so let them see it. Let them see what is actually the worst case scenario, because a lot of times it's nowhere near as bad as they're thinking it is. But because they don't shed a light on it, then they can't actually see how bad it is. So they end up magnifying how bad the pain is, when in reality it's not that bad, versus the pain of not getting what they want. So that's what we're doing here. We actually have to shed a light on it. You don't want to avoid the difficult conversations. A lot of times people want to avoid these difficult conversations. Again, whether it's on a sales call, right? They feel like, okay, this person has issues with other coaches, and so because they got scammed in the past, maybe I shouldn't bring up anything along those lines, because then they're going to think we're a scammer or something along those lines. It's like, no, you need to dive head first into these difficult conversations, because you are the one who's going to have control over the convo itself. You're the one shedding light on it. You're able to control the way the conversation goes. So you don't want to let the bomb explode later on in the sales call, or let the bomb explode later on in a conversation that you're having with your spouse or family member or whatever it may be. In reality, We want to take control over the situation and shed light on the worst possible case scenario, the best possible case scenario, and get them to see that's actually going to be just okay if they take action. And even if the worst possible thing happens, they're still going to be okay, right?
The remaining 3,100 taken out of the earnings from the channel. What do you think is, and be very transparent, like what is the absolute worst case scenario that could happen?
So first of all, I already appreciate that you're willing to do that guarantee. Hey, what about the remaining payments just through your channel? That was already great. I know you already pulled a lot of things to make sure I'm on board. But it's the analytical mind always plays this, worst case scenario, best case scenario, everything in between, but more so leaning towards the worst case scenario because you want to be prepared. Best case scenario is not a preparation; it's a celebration, right? But it's like your mind's heavy on this risk management side of things to the not so ideal favorable case. So it's not about like what catastrophe that could happen. It's just like, hey, I put in $5,000, and I know you guys have that guarantee. Yeah, what if I didn't end up enjoying it? Like I know right now I have high enthusiasm for it, and I know the potential of the YouTube market. You don't have to go to the numbers. I'm already understanding the numbers. YouTube is just vast, and they're owned by Google, which is even more a universe of things. But it's just like, hey, what if I never make the $5,000 back through my videos? Maybe, I don't know, for whatever reason, the niche I'm picking or the stuff that I'm passionate to talk about isn't hitting others like me because my avatar has been me all along. But I know that's not going to be the case because when you have a team, you kind of like, hey, maybe you're thinking too much that you're going to be watching this, but what about other people that are going to be watching this, right? So it's just like not making that 5K. And then once it's gone, and then suddenly, oh crap. And I know that the guarantee is there, but that's the last thing I want to do. I don't want to be like 6 months.
You notice what just happened there? He gave me an objection and then he handled it himself. Right? This is the reason why it's so important to get someone on a call. Because he's like, what if I don't enjoy it? That's just the thought that went through his head. And then he just realized like, oh, okay, I guess I'd be making content that I would watch. And so if I would watch it, then I would like it. And there's other people that would watch the same content that I'd be watching because right now I'm watching content on YouTube and millions of people are also watching it. And so you see how he handled the objection on his own? That's why it's so important to have these conversations on the phone. Don't get them through text. Don't send voice notes back and forth. Get them on the phone because you see how he just played out the entire scenario in his head? You think they're doing that to this extent on their own after the sales call? Right. So imagine we had the first sales call, he had a couple of objections. He probably just came to the conclusion, okay, like, I don't know, it's too risky. But he hasn't really played out why he thinks that to the extent that we can do on this call. Right. That's why you get him back on a call. You'll just see, I didn't have to say anything and he handled the objection. And then guess what? He gave me the real objection. It's like, what if it doesn't work? It's a lot of money. It's again, he's worried that it doesn't work, not that he's not going to enjoy it. So that was a bullshit objection. It was a smoke screen, gave me the real objection right after.
From now, and he goes, hey guys, I didn't make that. Like that to me, it's almost like I like that it's there, but I don't want to go there. I don't think about going there, right? That's just the thing. It's just not succeeding, and that's just a legitimate fear for everybody, not succeeding. And I know you never know until you try. You never know until you take a plunge into water. But I understand all that philosophy. But it's also okay. Is this this is an avenue I want to go into because again, just saw Victor's post, just met you, and there's a whole lot of things I don't know about, right? And I think it's awesome that you guys are dedicated to this, and I know it is. There's something here in the automation world. There's no argument on that. It's just my personally me. It's just that okay. What if I don't make the $5,000 back personally? What if I don't get there?
Gotcha. Mm-hmm. That makes perfect sense. And fair to say that Victor and I have had many conversations like this, and whether it's previous businesses or this or different investments that we.
It makes perfect sense, man. Right? Makes perfect sense. I get it. You're not crazy. I understand what you're saying. Right? And we've thought of this before. And boom, give me the answer.
Made or mentorships or like it's the same idea every time, Absolutely. Right? It's cool. Like obviously, best case scenario, you're not really hedging against best case scenario. If that happens, great. None of this actually matters. So it's always hedging against what could possibly go wrong, right? And so he kind of mentioned that ultimately the goal, and I think that's what's so important here, is to focus on the goal. A lot of times we can focus on certain contexts that have such tunnel vision that we're missing the remaining context that is important when we're making any sort of decision. And so, for example, in your case, you mentioned that outside of a couple potential jobs that you could potentially get later on, you wouldn't really want to go back to the corporate world unless it was like those specific gigs. So is it fair to say that still the goal is to have a level of entrepreneurial spirit, a level of creating your own business, a level of having that sort of control that you might have not had before in the workforce? Is that still correct? I just want to make sure we're on the same page.
Yeah, I want to be able to choose later.
Is that still correct? Right? Are we on the same page? Because if I just make an assumption and I start saying, okay, well, to get to this goal that I just assumed was his goal, but it's not actually the goal that he's looking for, guess what? We're on shaky foundations because in his head, he's like, I don't even give a fuck about the best case scenario. That's why it's so important to do probing the right way. And I could do an entire video on how to do world-class probing and get the actual thing that people are looking for. I can do an entire video on that in the same way that I'm doing it right now. But in reality, if you don't have the right goal, if you're not on the same page, then you might as well not be doing any objection handling at all, right? So because I have the right goal and I keep reminding him, hey, are we still on the same page? Is what you want? Then it makes it a lot easier for me to frame any of the objection handles I'm doing.
I want to be able to choose to do the job I want because, there's only one or two jobs that I'm like, fuck, even if I'm financially secure, I still would do this job because it's once in a lifetime opportunity to make a difference in the global scale, right? Those are the kind of like, okay, I want to be able to have that choice. Not a year from now, oh crap, I'm running out of money, my brother needs the schooling, I need to eat, and like I'm scraping, I need to get by. I don't want to be in that situation. I want to be able to like, oh man, I'm at a point where I could sorry, it's my cat. I'm at a point where I could make a decision and be able to either path I chose, I'm happy with it and not be afraid of money or lacking money. I'm not afraid of money. We all like money, but I'm just afraid of having lacking in money. As we all can correlate.
Of course, yeah.
100%. 100%. So, like you mentioned, kind of being in a financially free situation, that way you can make a decision on continuing down that path, starting a new business, going back to the workforce based on those 2 gigs. But the revolving idea is having a level of financial security, right? And so if that's the case, all of our actions should be getting us towards financial security, and obviously the lowest risk fashion, but also with the highest probability of actually succeeding. We have to look at both sides, right? And so if that's the case, right, in the sense of entrepreneurial spirit in general, there's always going to be a level of, let's call it, risk. And so in this case, you're mentioning the risk in the worst possible case scenario is that 6 months from now, you're refunded 5K and, you did YouTube and maybe it didn't make the amount of money that you're looking for, but at the end of the day, you would have made back that 5K. That is the worst possible case scenario. Now, also looking at it from our perspective, from our lens, do you genuinely, and please be honest, right? Do you genuinely think we would be making that sort of guarantee and saying that even close to 40% of the amount that we usually would take would be coming from the earnings of the channel would happen if we were confident that there's a very, very, very high probability that you're actually going to make that sort of investment back?
No, it's not that. It's, sometimes, you go through experiences. And in my work setting, I was a project manager for an energy company, and we've been through dispute through claims in our contracts in the past where we win, we didn't win, right? We win in, like, for instance, an engineering company that did not satisfy their side of the fulfillment, we get $2 million from them back, right? But it took a lot of fight to get there. It was it wasn't like, oh hey, remember our agreement? Yeah. It wasn't like, okay guys, here's your money back. It wasn't like that. It was like, oh hey, yeah, but
right.
We challenge every point. I never want to get to that stage where I have to battle for it, right? It's like, I know in the contract it's laid out, okay, as long as you participate in these calls, this and that, and I'm like, oh man, what if some of those, like, I just don't want to get to that stage where I have to challenge for it, or it end up having friction between all of us, and I never want to get there to either, especially that, right? So I just know that, things can be laid out, and people can be salesy, but you have to be to sell a product or service. I just know that behind the curtain, I've been to all these stages before when the relationship starts great, and then things didn't go according to plan, and then people battle through little writing in contracts, like it becomes very petty, but it's a lot at stake because money's at stake, right? But I know we're talking about $5,000 here, not like $1 million at the contract I dealt with. I know it's different, but that mindset's still there. I know what it's like when things don't work out, and it's you got to maintain that relationship, and it becomes challenging, right?
100%.
So I know you guys.
I think that makes perfect sense, and I really appreciate you bringing it up because I think there's missing context that we have that you have, or that we don't have that you have, and vice versa. When even elaborating on these points, it makes perfect sense, right? In previous experiences, again, yes, it was millions of dollars, but there was issues in terms of how do you sell this out, and I would assume there's lawyers involved and things on that nature because it's not as simple as like boom, a refund button, right? It's not that simple in most cases. In this case, right? In this case, like I mentioned before, we use PayPal as our payment processor. So it's not about coming to us and being like, hey guys, I didn't make the 5K back. Can you please return the money? If we, for whatever reason, were to say no, you literally go to PayPal and you just get your money if you have the agreement. And obviously, I don't want it to get to that point because that's not the way that you would like build a business. It's not how you build relationships. It's not how, like I mentioned on the last call, you surround yourself with other people who are going to be assets to you as well as to themselves, and not only the project they're working in now.
So like, we have a guarantee on our contract, as I already stated, that if they don't make back their entire initial investment working with us based on certain action thresholds that they have to do within the program, then we refund them, no questions asked. So in our case, like I, as a salesperson at the time or whatever it may be, I was like, cool, that should be enough for someone to trust that, no matter what the worst case scenario is, that they're going to make back their money, right? Because if they don't, then we refund them. But you see how if I didn't have this conversation with this prospect here, I wouldn't have known that because he works in the corporate world, even when there are guarantees along those lines, people have to go through legal litigation, I guess, back and forth, legal battles just to settle out what was originally promised as a guarantee. Now, I can remind him here, or I can explain to him now that I have this context, hey, actually, that's not the case, right? Because with PayPal, you can just show them the agreement, show that you did the actions that we already agreed upon, and if we don't give you back the money, guess what? PayPal will take it right out of our account and give it to you, right? And so this is such an easy handle. Like, it doesn't take a genius to make this handle, but what it takes is someone who can really listen and get the information out of them, right? Like, why is it that you feel like, you're not going to make your money back, right? Because we do have the guarantee. So why do you think that's the case, right? And so then he's like, oh, okay, cool. This is not the same as last time. This is not the same as when I was in the corporate world, right? This might be in a relationship, right? If someone's in a relationship and they're like, oh, I'm just worried that my partner is cheating. So, okay, well, what makes you think that? It's like, oh, because, they stay out late. And my last partner, when they stayed out late, they would end up like I ended up finding out that they were cheating. But then they miss out all this context, which is they stay out late because they work night shift, right? So they're at work. This partner shares their location with you. The last partner didn't, right? This partner has been nothing but a rock in your life, and has only provided support and faithfulness. And there's literally no inkling that they have the same qualities as the last person. And then when they think about it, they're like, actually, yeah, like I shouldn't have any issues with them working late. That's totally normal, and they're not like my last situation. But the only way that you can get that out of the person is if you actually have that conversation and again shed light onto their main concerns.
Now, but in future projects as well.
No.
And that's what the fact that you just brought up a cat. Victor's old like gamer tag was cat low. He was like he had like 5 cats at one point. Like he was a big cat dad. So I know his eyes just lit up.
So funny.
Dude, my cat has Instagram. I take her to the mountains with me. I love my cat. She's a
That's
perfect
sick.
personality too. Very cuddly, very playful. Man, I'm glad you guys are cat people too.
Oh, absolutely. Obsessed.
Adventure Kitty.
Better rapport.
That's
Yeah.
awesome.
We love cats.
Especially Egyptians too, right, Adam? You guys worship cats back in the day.
That's right.
They're gods.
I don't think that ever got out of my genes. I still love cats to this day here. I love it. That's awesome. I never had 5 cats, but I could definitely see that in the future. That's awesome. That's awesome. But man, that really is what it is. It's kind of just looking at all the facts and then also recognizing, is it really the analytical point of being logical, or is it sometimes fear of the unknown that cloaks itself as being analytical and rational, where in reality it's just a way for us to get out of doing something uncomfortable. And one thing I'll tell you from going into the workforce, and obviously Victor can attest to this a lot more than I can because he had more years in, let's say, the regular workforce than I did, is that the biggest difference between the people who own the system, right? So the people who own the companies, the people who work within the companies, is that the people who own the companies are the ones who, let's say, have taken greater risk and gotten into greater discomfort than people within the system. Because when you're an employee, you are actually given a feedback loop by lowering the risk of the company. Because the lower the risk, the more incentives you have of actually growing within the company. The reality is people who own the company have to take greater risk, at least in the beginning, right? Over time, you go more in less of a massive growth phase and more in like a stabilizing and linear growth phase. Mm-hmm. And so if you are wanting to go down this entrepreneur route, I think it's also flipping the feedback loop of what it's supposed to look like to actually succeed. Because again, leveling up within a company, going up the corporate ladder is very different than building a system, building a company from scratch. And so I think that's one shift a lot of people have to make when they're leaving the workforce and getting into entrepreneurship, is also the feeling of the uncomfortability. Instead of your job being on the line, it's actually creating something that will generate you significantly more income than you actually put in. Right. And so is it really a case of, you think that there's a very high probability that you're going to make this investment, you're not going to make 5K back, you're not going to enjoy the actual process of YouTube, and that's like the case that's probably going to happen? Or is it more just like, a little uncomfortable, I only have so much money right now, I only have so much runway, but in reality, like I would be okay, and actually not the end of the world, and actually the upside is significantly higher than the potential downside, especially if we're looking at probability. So is it more just nerves, or is it actually like, oh no, this would absolutely like treat?
So now I'm being a little bit more direct, right? In the beginning, it was more so, okay, you explain to me what's going through your head, But now that I've collected enough information, I can kind of just bring it up. I can be direct, but still, what I'll say is a lot of times people, and I'll have a phrase or a statement labeling what the person I'm speaking to is doing without telling them, oh, this is what you're doing, right? The reason I do that is kind of diffuse any sort of label that I put on them where they're like, well, actually, that's not true, because I don't want them to be like, okay, that's not true, because then I lose trust in their eyes, right? Respect in their eyes, like, okay, you don't fully understand what's going through my head. But I can bring this up based on the context clues I have right now, which is, man, like you said, you want to be an entrepreneur, right? And realistically, it's very different than being an employee, because when you're an employee, right, it's a very different mentality than when you're the entrepreneur, right? Because an entrepreneur takes on risk, right? They're okay with losing a bit of money in favor of learning and getting the experience and eventually growing the company, versus as an employee, you want to make the company as much money as possible. And if they lose money, guess what? You might be fired. And so the feedback loop is different. And I have to remind him that, right? Because he said he wants to be here, but he's still making actions based on a person who's here. So you have to switch your mentality, right? And so I'll have that blanket statement of, okay, some people, right? Some people have XYZ. And the reason I know that is because we went through it. Now, in reality, what's going on in this situation? Is it really that you don't think you're going to succeed? Or is it just a bit of nerds, right? I'm still giving him the out. I'm not saying, hey, you are doing this. I'm still giving him an out, because it's not as like, okay, you're a fucking idiot, you should be doing this. It's like, hey man, like this is what I'm seeing, right? It's more of a concerned tonality. It's a friend that cares about him,
right? And so you explain to me, like, this is what I'm seeing, but tell me what you're seeing, right? And get them to explain themselves.
It's, I appreciate all the explanation there. It's definitely a mixture of all the above. Yes, it's, if we're talking about a different topic right now, like if it's something project management energy related, I'll be completely different mind space because I've been in that. I mean, I experienced 10 years of wisdom in it. But YouTube automation, yeah, I'm a big fan of YouTube. I watch a lot of YouTube, but have I been taking that role in the automation side? Never really, right? So it is that there's that unknown. This is an area where I have zero. I'm starting from zero. I'm at the mercy of faith and trust from those that are willing to mentor like yourself. So it is a combination of all the above. But right now, where I'm boiling it down to in my mindset is that, yeah, I'm no stranger to discomfort, physically and mentally, right? So that's an area that I'm willing to, I understand entrepreneurialism is not like getting a full-time job. It's, it's a lot of risk. I get it. It's a lot of discomfort and I'm no stranger to that. Right now, it's just what I'm weighing is like the discomfort of learning by myself, learning and failing by myself, or learning and failing with the $5,000 gone right off the bat, right? Again, to me, like I said, I know we have that guarantee.
Pain of buying versus pain of not buying.
But I don't want to go there. I don't want to get to that stage. That to me, that's like, the achiever mindset in me is like, that's a failure. And I know you have to fail so many times to get back up. But really, it's like, okay, am I willing to invest in the discomfort learning by myself and or right now give the 5K and sort of have a team to do that with? That's like what it comes down to now. Discomfort is needed to grow. But it's also just a new territory, it's a whole new territory for me. You guys have been in the space. I haven't. So let me ask you guys, jump onto the project management of energy. It's like, you guys probably have a lot of questions like I do, or hesitation like I do. Like, give me $5,000, guys. We'll take this to the next step. It's like, it's, as you can see, it's that too. Like, okay, there's an area I don't know about. And there's these two guys who, I'm glad that we have a commonalities, but a lot of providers out there is like, yeah, we're in Ukraine or somewhere. I'm like, man, these guys can just run away with your money, right? I know you guys are not in that mind for me because, Victor, I looked at your LinkedIn. We have actually, quite frankly, many mutual connections. Like, Matthew Dimian, right? Like, I work with that guy. But like, it's like some common, so I know you guys have this common background and I'm like, oh, sweet. So, that checks out for me. So I'm not afraid of that. It's just more, I just don't know this field. And it's $5,000 for my situation right now is a lot, but maybe once I have a YouTube channel that makes thousands a month, I won't see it the same way, right? It's just right now. It's don't know the YouTube. I've never made money from YouTube. I know the whole potential and the whole stuff that you guys have experienced. I'm not there. And I know you guys are providing that service because you guys are there, and that's why I was like, oh, that's why I talked to you guys in the first place because okay, let's see what we have here.
100%. And that's exactly what it is, man. It just comes to that recognition of, do you want to take action towards something on your own? Do you want to get support from people that have done it? And also just making sure and checking out that they actually know what they're talking about. Because, I'm on the same page. Like, you wouldn't just like wire someone or send money to someone who you don't think can actually help you get there, right? And based on what you mentioned, it's not that you don't think that we can help you get there. It's just more weighing out, does it make sense of approaching it on your own and going through that trial and error, or potentially doing the 5K and having a much higher probability of getting there in that same amount of time? That's basically what we're looking at here, correct?
100%.
So, then it really just comes down to what you value, right? Do you value higher probability of success and saving as much time as possible? Or do you value the DIY path of not knowing how long it's going to take, not knowing if it's going to get you results, but knowing that like if you did it for long enough, eventually you would see some sort of result? It really just comes down to like what you value more. Is it the time and a higher probability of success? Or is it because for some people, they just want to DIY it. We used to be like that until we recognized like, oh, this is actually a lot easier when I'm telling you what to do. And like I mentioned to you, like one of our mentors, Iman, 24 years old. I mean, we paid $50,000 US, by the way, just to meet him for a weekend. And what we learned from there, it paid back tenfold, right? Yeah. And it's because we just have the feedback loop that maybe you haven't had just yet of recognizing that paying to be mentored or just getting a mentor in some way, shape, or form, as I'm sure you've probably seen in your past, can expedite exponentially the amount of time that you would spend in something to get the same amount of results back. Right. In the same way you kind of mentioned, like you interview people within your company and I believe the old CEO of your old company or someone high level, you mentioned that is mentoring you right now, or am I?
Yeah, I just met with her actually a couple hours ago. Yeah.
Amazing. And so the knowledge that you're learning from someone like that is obviously deeply shortening the amount of time it would take you to learn that same amount of information. And so it's the same idea here. Right. And so it really just comes down to what you value more. The only reason that I would push you a little bit against it, and that's in other cases, like I'm just giving people a bunch of free resources and I can give it to you today. It's really not an issue at all. The reason in your case, I don't know if it makes as much sense compared to, let's say, the college student with 2 classes a day who has all the time in the world and can go play around and might not have the money put into it or someone along those lines. They can go mess up for 6, 12 months, make no money and see a bit of progress. And then on their 14th month, they make $2,000. They're able to kind of grow from there. And that's fine because they're in that season of life.
Yeah.
Based on what you told me, the season is more so scarcity of time and making sure that we're able to grow as fast as possible. So in a year's time, you do have that option. And you're not like stuck in a situation where it's like, okay, I finished my MBA, but I don't have enough income coming in right now. So I have to go back to work, even if it's not specifically the job opportunities I'm looking for. So really in your mind, what is worth more? Is it saving the time and increasing the probability that in a year from now, you don't have to go back to work? Or is it more so like, I would rather keep the safety, the additional safety net, that potentially that 5K could produce, even though you know that in 6 months' time you'd at least make it back. And I just want a super honest answer. Like, which one would you value more?
I know the answer, right? Like, obviously, he wants to save time and he wants a higher probability or whatever it is. But you see how when he explained that, I'm like, cool, now I have the context of why you're thinking you potentially could do it on your own. I can explain to you what it's actually going to play out to, which is you're just going to waste a bunch of time. And, for the people that do have, multiple hours a day and they don't have any financial commitments and oh, fuck yeah, go try to do this on your own. That's not an issue. If you're more of a DIY kind of person. But if you're the type of person who cares a lot about the end result, if you want to make sure a year from now, that deadline that you have, you're actually making the income that you're looking for, and the channel is still not just, you're like turning circles and not getting any results that you're looking for, then you should probably get support, right? And so I'm just kind of, again, here's the result you want. Here is where you are. The only way for you to get to that result is by getting our product. It's by this right here, okay? It's what I'm telling you, and our product, that's what's going to get you there. Now, if you don't care about this end result, by all means, don't buy it from us, right? It doesn't actually make sense for you to buy from us. Actually, there are people out there that does not make sense for them to buy from us. And so that's why, again, it's so crucial to understand what the end goal is and put yourself right in the middle. So the only option they have to be able to get here is through you. Not doing it on their own, not doing it through someone else. It's through you. That's it. And it doesn't matter what you're selling. It's always the same process.
Well, when you group it like that, it's obvious. I value my time, right? And I'm a very busy guy in general, even when I've got a full-time job, because this student life is going to take a lot of fast track options on the MBA. Is like you're doubling up workload into the same time and into 1 year instead of 2 years that typically takes people onto. When you work like that, it's obvious. I definitely value my time and the wisdom, I call it, the wisdom package that you guys are providing that will save me from a lot of minefields of obstruction and money draining pitfalls. Yeah, definitely. I value my time. That's no brainer for sure.
So on that note, like, what just makes the most amount of logical sense? And don't do it because you like us or because we like cats or any of those commonalities. Those are great. But just in general, it's always about making just super logical decisions, right? And so refraining from letting fear stop us and just genuinely looking at it with cold hard facts. What has the highest probability of getting me to the outcome I want to be in?
Yeah, and yeah, no, for sure. By the way, this connection, this commonality is more than you guys think. It's there's a lot of providers out there, and if you don't connect with them that way, you're like, I don't know, definitely not win package, right? But you guys are definitely something I generally consider because of that connection and commonalities, because that takes a long way. Yeah, definitely. You bring a lot of good points, man. Like, there's no debate around the points you made. So it's like, yeah, I definitely, that's the path that I want to be in. Be able to a year from now decide if I want to go back and be at that stage where okay, there's streaming of income coming here that I'm happy with. I want to be able to travel and work from anywhere. That's the new world dream, is to be able to make money from anywhere, right? You guys are living that life right now.
Do you see how he's starting to, oh, wow, maybe the pain of buying isn't that bad. Maybe the pain of not getting to my desired outcome is actually a lot worse. What if this does work? What if I stop thinking about worst case scenario? Wow, what would it be like to be able to make money online? To not have to worry about a paycheck? To be able to do anything I want whenever I want? That would be really cool. Now we're getting him out of thinking about the present and thinking more about a future version of himself by making sure that he understands that, hey man, things you're concerned about are really not that big of a deal, or they're not actually what you think. I don't even want to de-emphasize the value of the things that he has concern about, but they don't actually have any legs to stand on. They shouldn't be concerned to begin with. And boom, he's just starting to get it. It's getting closer and closer. Funny enough, like 3 minutes before this, Victor texted me, my business partner, the one that's also on the call, texted me. He's like, bro, just drop it. Like, he's not going to buy. He's not going to buy. He kept saying that. I'm like, I know he's going to fucking buy. Guess what? He bought.
Making that background a reality.
Oh, okay. She just dropped a couple of things. Yeah, I'm actually going to Panama in May, so I'll be surfing. So this background will be a reality.
There you go.
And what is it? A couple of months.
I just see her tail coming in.
Yeah, she's there's like a shelf up there, and she's just like, yeah. So, what was Victor and Adam? What was what are you guys hoping to achieve from this meeting? I know I already told Adam my intention, and then is it to change my mind? Is it to make me reconsider, or what was?
I'll tell you very flat out what it is. I have thought my entire life that it's my duty to point out context. And I'm not here to make anyone make any sort of decision, and there's no emotion involved with whatever decision people make. It was just one thing that I noticed early on in life, that I had the ability to like see things in a way that could help other people see things in a way that could potentially help them, right? And so all I'm here to do is just kind of give you the cold hard facts. You mentioned that you want to kind of eventually like maybe do YouTube automation on your own, and just like out of good conscience, I'm telling you right now, like you can do it. I just think more than likely, based on your current situation, it's probably going to be a lot of wasted effort. And so it didn't feel right to just kind of let you go down that path without at least having the entire picture. And it's really up to you to do whatever you want with it. I just think it was kind of my duty to provide additional context and really just make sure that we're always on the same page. So whatever decision you make is
It's like, yo, did you get me on a call to hard close me? I'm like, no, because I don't believe in hard closing. I believe in, again, literally what I just said here. I'm just going to give him the context that's required for him to come to that conclusion on his own. You know, I create the borders, right? Bowling alley, right? I create the borders where the only choice for them logically and emotionally is to buy, right? I'm not here to tell them to do it. I just ask them questions that lead them to believing that, right? To leading into believing them that they need to buy to get what they want. So
actually the one that's going to get you to where you want to be.
I appreciate that. That's definitely a benevolent mindset you have, and I appreciate it. Just to be more specific in that case, how can I fail if I do it by myself? I just want to know one concrete, specific thing that you could share. Yeah,
I can echo off of it too, just to give you some input. Essentially, yeah, like when Amr and I were working towards building up our channels and learning everything about the algorithm, testing and trying so many channels and niches and all these different things, we discovered something pretty rapidly. Like Ahmed mentioned, it's a very difficult business model. I mean, we even came from our marketing backgrounds where we were more or less experts in content creation and advertising and all these different things. And so we thought we'd come in with a pretty good understanding of, what converts, what is attractive to the market, stuff like that. So retention-wise, all this stuff. And we were kind of not pleasantly surprised by the outcome. And so the main point I'm trying to make here is, of course, obviously eventually figured it out. It did take us quite a bit of money invested and quite a bit of time. So now that we kind of understand like what actually works and how the algorithm actually ticks, which niches to get into, most importantly, because again, one of the biggest and worst mistakes you can make is getting into the wrong vehicle to begin with. So now that we kind of understand this stuff, we designed the program in such a way where we really help you skip a lot of the main deterrents, which are again like niche, putting together the right kind of team, understanding really just what works content-wise and what doesn't. Once you understand what not to do, you can hyper-focus on what to do, which is the best thing you can do. It's the best course of action to spend your time, and especially in your case, very limited time, is just hyper-focusing on what to do. Because there's a lot of stuff you should not do. And if you know what not to do, then yeah, you focus on the small stuff. So that's really the point of the program is we designed it in a way where you're able to use a very limited amount of time, because most people we speak to are very, very busy. And then these people can spend their 1 or 2 hours a day focusing on the tasks that we give them, because every day is a specific set of tasks. You know what to do per week, per month, you have your roadmap. And this way you actually have kind of a design plan of attack, knowing exactly what to do, what course of action to take to achieve XYZ goal, versus doing it on your own. It's very difficult. It's kind of just up in the air. Okay, do I study this today? Do I look at this? You study you spend a bunch of time researching a specific niche only to find out it's no longer working, it's oversaturated, etc. So that's the thing is there's a lot of inconclusive information out there that you won't know until you spend the time and worst case money to find out the right way. So that's just the whole point, is consolidating all of the time, effort, energy, and failures into this so that you can kind of prevent that and have that feedback loop from us, giving you the opportunity to basically just propel yourself to success if you obviously take action the way we expect you to take action and get involved in the program the way we expect. And that's kind of, I'd say, my answer is like how we would perceive if you were to do it on your own. It might not be as fun as it may seem, and why working with somebody is obviously really important.
And just to put it in like most simple terms, exactly what you said, is that right now, based on the time that you mentioned, the 1 to 2 hours a day is what you can even allocate to begin with. And that's what's required if you're doing everything at 100% efficiency using our help. Now, if you don't have that efficiency, it's obviously going to take significantly longer than 1 to 2 hours a day. And that you mentioned that you can't even budget for because of obviously the MBA fast tracking it and everything else that you're doing right now. And so it was just more of that, recognizing that, okay, well, like if you can, right now, you can only put in the amount of time that is required when you're working at 100% efficiency. What is the required amount of time when you're at 5% efficiency because you haven't done this before?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, you guys definitely have great points, and then definitely that's the side that I'm trying to avoid. So I'm just thinking,
No, of course, yeah.
Something in my mind that I'm thinking, because I think you guys are definitely valuable resource, and I hope you guys are not offended by me proposing this, and it's just more of a thought, okay? And of course, it's not trying to devalue your service and the empire that you're creating here. How do you feel about this? If I go in at $0 investment, right? So imagine me coming in like an employee. Hey, I'm going to come in, I'm going to try and make value here. And if I do end up producing videos that end up worth the amount that you guys are asking here, I know you told me the 3.1 could be done that way. What if the entirety of it can be done that way? Again, just spitballing an idea that I'm like, hey, I definitely see the value you guys are bringing. I really want to be part of this. But right now, the 5K is a big deal to lump something right away. What if we do the whole thing that way? Hey, I'm going to be working hard to get this YouTube out there. And I'm not treating this like, hey, I'm going in for free, so I'm going to be half-assing this and see if it works. No, I'm going to be dedicating it because I do want to make this work. I do want to give you guys that money because you guys are worth it, right? But rather treating it like this, where you're twisting it like, hey, I'm becoming an employee to produce this. And then when once it's achieved, then you guys get the net. And then that way, and when that's achieved, that double duties, then there's no 100% refund needed for 6 months because that would be made for you guys. So you guys got what you need. I've got the assurance that I need. Also that mindset, okay, I'm the situation that I'm in, and I made it work. And definitely then we have a huge handshake and celebration because I'm like, hey, I definitely, appreciate you guys on trying this with me. I know it's not something you do, but I'm just wondering, if I don't put it out there, I'll regret not asking it. So thoughts on that?
I appreciate the offer. I can understand from your perspective why that would be something that you would.
He wants it, right? Like, he just shifted his whole mentality. Now he wants it. Now he's just trying to see if like there's a way for him to get it for low cost or no cost or whatever. He wants it, right? So I already won.
We would try to offer as well. I'll give you a bit more context because I think context is key, right? Because when we're both on the same page and we understand what's going through your brain, you understand what's going through our brain, and there's like no hurt feelings and everybody's like working towards a cohesive mission, right? And so just to put in perspective, like I told you on the last call, when we take on students, we obviously have our costs. We have a cost from acquiring John, we have a cost from our other coaches, all the systems that we build, all the softwares that we use, all the things that we give access to for our students. So when someone joins, our whole philosophy is if they can just pay for their cost of bringing someone on, then that's fine for us because again, we are able to build another channel within our community that allows us to obviously continue growing, continue scaling, continue getting the data that we're looking for. And so already we're doing that and taking a bigger, like not loss, but basically fronting the money already in terms of the 3,100 that we already kind of talked about. And then basically saying, okay, whatever, 60% of it's going to be paid up front. And then from there, we're able to take the remaining amount from the actual channel itself. And so this is more of like the equivalent of saying like to a trainer, like let's say a fitness trainer, like, hey, look, I know you can get me to where I need to be. I know I'm 30 pounds overweight right now, and I got 6 months to drop the weight because I got a wedding and I want to be healed. So I'm going to pay you once I got abs. So I'm going to have to go do all this work with you, spend all this time, do all of these things, go out of my way, spend for gas, do all of these things. And then eventually, if you commit to everything that we talked about, then I get paid for it. And so it's more of a situation of we're already going out of our way, and I hope you know this as well, to even say that the 3,100 will be taken out of the channel. That's not offered at all to anyone. And that's me meeting you like halfway and even more than halfway, just to make sure that also you're in a situation where you're not putting yourself in a situation where you can't pay for food or anything along those lines. But I hope that brings a little bit more clarity in terms of kind of our side as well here, and just making sure that we're
Again, giving examples like that is super helpful, right? It's like who in their right mind would ever say like, oh yeah, like, because we have this in BizOp all the time, like not just our offer, like a lot of people in BizOp. BizOp means business opportunity or make money online opportunities. Like, when I make the money based on what you teach me, then I'll pay you. So, okay, well, like, would you ever go to a fitness trainer and do the same thing? Right? Like, get me abs in 6 months, I'll pay you. It's like, no, right? Because obviously that also requires the person who's buying to put in effort, right? This is not, oh, I'll do all the work for you and you just sit back and relax as an investor and you'll make your money back. This is, you have to put in the effort, right? It's done with you. So you still have to put in work, right? And so when you explain it that way, then they realize like how ridiculous it is for them to ask that. But again, you don't have to say this is ridiculous. You just have to explain it in like the same terms. Like, dude, I get it. I get why you would want that. Is it fair to say that's probably not fair, right? Not realistic for that to happen just based on, you know, we have operational costs. Obviously, you're going to have to do the work to get the money back. And so in reality, does that make a lot more sense now? Yeah. Okay. It does make sense. Awesome. Okay. What are we doing here? We're moving forward.
We're all working towards something that makes sense for all of us, and no one's like getting screwed over if anything along those lines. Does that make sense?
Oh, 1,000%. Yeah, trust me, I appreciate your answer. It's definitely a great answer. And yeah, I understand you guys have operational costs that you need to fulfill. I'm mindful of that. I'm just here as the buyer, negotiating to the best of my ability. How about not zero initial? How about flip it around? 3.1 to start, and then 5K through the revenue.
Very difficult for us to be okay with that. I'll tell you why. Again, because there are a lot more costs when we're setting up the student channels in the beginning. And so in my philosophy is like, okay, like majority of it's going to be paid out upfront. Let's take care of the cost until the channel is actually able to generate income. And so we're not really divoting below that line of going out of, let's say, out of money already on top of everything that we just went out for purchasing John's IP. And so that again makes it like just so you understand, like, again, we're doing something for you that we've literally done for no one before. And I had to go and talk to Victor for about 40 minutes to explain our conversation about why I was willing to even do that with you to begin with, just because of the potential I see within you. But obviously there's a limit to that as well in terms of like how much further we can go, right? And so that was just understanding your point of view, understanding that before you came on the call, you already had that budget allocated. So I know you already ran through those numbers and you were kind of around that 5K mark where that was like something that you were ready to go with, kind of like you mentioned on the last call. And so that's why I was like, all right, even though you're kind of pulling my arm right now, I still see the long-term value because again, I try to not narrow in on the narrow context, but try to look at it in the total context, which is why I kind of made that judgment call in our last call there.
No, I do. Hey, that's why I keep saying in the beginning. I appreciate what you've been pulling there, Ahmed, and bringing Victor here. Yeah, I know you got to do a lot. So I'm thankful for that. And I know Ahmed already mentioned yesterday why he really is enthusiastic in bringing me in. But Victor, how do you feel? Like me being part of you guys' network and stuff.
Well, that's, without even hesitating, obviously, after a conversation like we've had, you've definitely showcased, your capacity as a person, the way you think. Again, you're very analytical people, and I love it. Again, it's kind of like you mentioned, we have a bit of a contrast where sometimes we butt heads, but at the end of the day, it's just like it makes us such a powerful relationship. So you obviously have what it takes, because I also see a lot of Ahmed in you, which is very cool. So there's no question in terms of the value that you bring in terms of like being involved in the program, nor would I even question the success that would come out of it. I mean, let's just put it very simple. YouTube is not just like a hobby. It's not just a way of making money. It's a business. And it's not for everybody per se. So if you were able to pursue this, if you had the time and you had the support, I don't see you not succeeding in something like this. So there's no argument or question of whether, I'd like to have you, of course. It's just the fact that, like Mohammed mentioned, in terms of the way we're operating the business, I wish it was something where it was a lot more cost efficient upfront and a bit more lean. But we do have a pretty significant amount of upfront costs that we need to have covered. Otherwise, we're not running a business. It's just a charity, right? And I'd love to get there at that one point. but our costs need to be covered, right?
Yeah. Oh yeah, 100%. No, thank you for that honesty and openness from both of your sides. Wow, you guys are definitely good. You guys are definitely reeling me back in here. Just FYI. Also, just so you know, I'm such an obsessive learner, so even throughout my education and learning, I'm also embarking on additional courses next month, and one of them is going to be through Harvard Business Online School. I'm doing the negotiation mastery. So I've negotiated before as well, where you know the company save a lot of money, but I want to be able to negotiate for me now, right? Not just the company, right? But what I'm trying to say from that is, hey, I'll bring skills that help you guys out too. I want to be, when I told Ahmed, I'm like, I want to be part of this, not just to be a student. I want to be like, hey, let's see how we can elevate this whole business too, right? And I want to be able to use that because you guys are living your dreams, and a lot of people are stuck in the rat race of the corporate world, and that's what I admire about you guys. And of course, what I'm trying to take from that is like, hey, maybe I can bring some additional skills to the table that maybe we could elevate this coaching and business to the next level. And I did tell Ahmed, hey, one day I want to be the same where you guys are. I want to be coaching as well. I think I have the knack to deliver and give back, and I feel like it's something I would enjoy. So that's what I told him when I join. It's not just to get the service and run away. I want to be like, hey, guys, let's scale this up somehow.
And that's why I enjoyed your ability to communicate your skill sets, your affinity to be able to continue to grow in so many parts of your life is why I even gave you that offer to begin with, or said, okay, let's do it, because I think your recommendation that would have never crossed my mind, to be completely honest, in terms of doing like a partial friend and the remaining amount from the channel. It was literally just the fact that you're able to communicate your mentality, which is why I was to let go of so much more than we've literally ever done in any other situation, because I know, like I mentioned before, there is going to be that ROI, and so it's just about getting us to that point, because we're going to look back on this and laugh and think, wow, we're talking about like $3,000 here. Let's be like, this is like what this conversation was when we were talking about.
Remind him, like, we're going back and forth on semantics. Like, really, $3,000, $5,000. Like, what is this when you're making tens of thousands of dollars a month, right? So he's already there. He's trying to get one little thing, just like as a little victory for himself. I want him to see that he's already gotten that through the negotiated deal that we had here, and then he'll just close on the spot.
About deals that are 10 to 100 times bigger than that, it's all going to look funny in retrospect here. And so really, it just comes down to exactly what we already talked about, which is, where do you want to take this? And really, do you value, again, the time aspect or the actual results aspect? And really, based on what you told me, it's just making sure that you're making the most logical, sound decision, and knowing that you're getting a much better, let's say, upfront deal than anyone else that we've ever worked with here. And that's the wholehearted, just very transparent fact of it.
Yeah. Absolutely. And I even have a quick feedback right now on my interfacing with you guys in the beginning. I know in the beginning I kept saying, hey, Victor, are you going to be in a call? Are you going to be in a call? One quick feedback is that when you see a lot of these coaches like, hey, I'm going to be providing this and that, and then suddenly you end up getting some names you never mentioned before, and you're like, oh, you start to think, is this scammed? Is this somebody portraying Victor and then make their own deepfake type of stuff things, right? So maybe a feedback is like, in one of your ads, Victor, you say, hey, my coaches, Ahmed, this and that, put their picture. Then I'm like, okay, then you have a short, okay, this is legit. Whereas you're like, hey, I'm Victor, this is my service, this is what I'm going to provide, and the awesome things you're going to have.
It's actually really good. We're actually implementing that right now, which is if you are a coach or you work at a company that has obviously a face associated with it and you have a bunch of sales rep, you should do something called the transfer of trust video, which is exactly what you just explained here. Basically, video that you send out to prospects after they book in a call before they actually hop on the call, where it's you, it's a split screen, it can be a Zoom call, and it's just basically the coach introducing the sales rep as one of their top guys. He can provide the support, anything that the coach knows, this person knows, whatever it may be, just a transfer of trust. That way, when they get on the call, it's not this random person after they built up a bunch of rapport and attraction to the specific coach itself. It's like, well, who the fuck are you, right? And then they're trying to sell them. So they're always starting at on a lower note because it's not actually the coach. So this transfer of trust video can help a lot.
And then suddenly you're meeting with somebody you never heard from the video, and you're like, got you, step you back a bit. Anyways, quick feedback. That's something
I appreciate that.
Good feedback.
Yeah, it's like, hey, here's my trusty mentor, my longtime friend, Ahmed. I don't know what else, John, and this and that. And then they already give them credential right away, right? And I know the goal is to be automated, the goal is to be delegated, but trust is a big thing, especially as the front end of things. And maybe the first meeting, like, hey, I'm Victor, and I'm now, this is me, this is real, and this is my counterpart, Ahmed, and I'm going to leave you with him now, so let's touch base again. And boom, you exit, and Ahmed pursue as he would, and he's doing what he does. Yeah. So just that's the only
I appreciate that a lot, seriously.
That makes a lot of sense. I like that. I like that a lot. That little video where people can know who I am before they get on the call, so they're not reached out by the intro.
Ahmed needs to be up there too. Like, hey, I'm one of the team. I'm not just like sometimes you pick up the phone and those scammers, that you get. It's like, hello, I am Steve. I'm like, yeah, clearly. Like, you just have that, you know that vibe, but it's kind of like, okay, it's not what I'm hearing. You immediately kind of lose that trust. But anyways, just one feedback. But
that makes sense. No, I appreciate that genuinely.
But in conclusion, okay, let's continue. I'm back on the table, boys.
Do it, brother. Let's do it. We're going to be helping you through every single step of the process. I know you know that. And really what this is going to look like is we're going to get you onboarded. We're going to book you in for the initial onboarding call. Again, this is where we're going to start getting your mind going in terms of the way that we're going to approach your channel. And again, you have 2 more afterwards for us to re-cement the actual gameplay. In the meantime, you're going to go through the video program. Like I mentioned, it takes about 15 hours.
So yeah, we start going through just reminding him what he's getting.
The same one that I sent off everything, right?
And then he ends up buying. So the rest of the calls are just onboarding him, getting the payment
holiday
going.
types and everything. Yeah.
You got
But yeah, he ends up buying afterwards, which is cool. So that is it for this video here. I hope this was of value. Realistically, just to put it very clearly here, the main takeaway should be the looping pattern, which is come from a place of seeking to understand, right? You're not fighting them. You're on the same page. You're going to the same mission, right? Reminding them of the end goal, reminding them of the whole reason that they ever wanted your product to begin with, and really how much of a difference that would make in their life. And then figure out the objections that they have that are still keeping them in the mentality that there's more pain of buying right now than there is the pain of actually getting to the goal that they're looking for, or not getting to the goal that they're looking for. And then slowly chip away at it. Not slowly. I mean, this guy, there's multiple things that we have to go back and forth. A lot of times this can be done much quicker. But chip away at each one, turn the limiting buying beliefs into positive buying beliefs by, again, seeking to understand, being cool, we're on the same page. Is it fair to assume XYZ? Is it fair to assume that this is the situation that you're still looking for? Cool. Well, if that's the case, then doesn't it make sense to do XYZ, right? And just getting them back into that mentality of like, okay, we're on the same page. We want the same thing. Is it fair to assume that the best and most likely way to get to that same thing is by taking this type of action? That type of action obviously leading us to buying the product. And then just do that, continue to loop. You're going to get the sale. In reality, it's not just about sales. This is really just with anyone that you talk to. Now, the only way this works is if your product is actually good, right? So if you're selling a dog shit product, if you're not able to handle it in the way that I just handled it, then that means you have a problem with your offer, with your product, something along those lines. So you got to fix that. But if your product makes sense, it's actually helping people, and it's actually going to get the person that you're speaking to their end goal, then this is how you objection handle. It's the same thing when you're dealing with, again, a friend, a spouse. You want to go to a certain place to eat. Your friend wants to start a specific business, but you don't think it makes sense, whatever it may be. This is how you objection handle. Do this every time. You will see results. It's going to help you with everything that you touch. If you guys like this video, let me know. Now, if you guys want me to do a separate video on probing, probing means discovery, right? It's when you get on a call with someone, or it's really just figuring out what is the core root problem that person has. Because a lot of people do very basic discovery. They do very basic questions, and then they try to sell the prospect. Now, you have a way less likelihood of selling them. And in reality, if you end up like dealing with objections, you won't be able to go back and forth and remind them why they need to actually commit to it. So the only reason I was able to do objection handling so well on this call is because I did a really great discovery, right? So if you guys want me to do an entire video on that, I can do it the same way. Let me know what you think of long form content like this. Outside that, appreciate you watching, and see you next time.